100 years ago, German incels and chuds like Arthur Schopenhauer and Friedrich Nietzsche wrote down the doctrine of the red pill. They tried to wake you up to the fact that women run the world and women are in league with the devil and the demiurge, trying to keep you trapped in the matrix so that they can extract value out of you via divorce rape, via all sorts of creepy financial tools in order to extract your vril, extract your manly essence so that they can turn it into Gucci bags and shopping experiences and pedicures for their nails so they can show off to the other girls that they look so beautiful and pretty. You have been born into bondage. The world itself is a scam designed to exploit you. You do not live in a human society in the way that you think, where you as a young man, you as a male, think you have freedom, think you have the possibilities and opportunities of a bright future of your own choices. No, you are a worker ant. You have no individuality, you have no purpose, nobody cares about you. You are nothing more than an expendable drone put on this earth to serve the queen. And it was these German incels who woke up to this reality. After thousands of years of cultivation of the European soul, finally these massive big-brained German philosophers saw what was happening. They understood the nature of the scam. They realized how the male race had been enslaved by the female race, and they began writing books to wake other people up. But of course, women could not have this. As soon as they realized what was going on, they had to put a stop to this. So they got organized. They called up Russia, they called up England, they called up France, they called up America, and they said, destroy those German incels. And so, over the course of 2 massive wars, Germany was annihilated. It was ripped in half, and all of these German incel philosophers, their books were burned. Their books were cast away into the fires, never to be read by man once again. And in the end, womankind laughed in triumph. Man's awakening had been squashed once again, and the regime of slavery could continue uncontested. And so for decades, we men continued unaware of our condition. We paid mortgages, we paid taxes, we paid for shopping trips, we bought flowers, unaware that we were getting exploited at every turn. Until very recently, where men, in their ingenuity, invented a new tool that would help us wake people up from this matrix, and this was the internet. They created the internet where men could get together and communicate to each other and talk to each other about the nature of reality. And this was unlike the normal mainstream media which women control. This is why all the news anchors are women. This was something where men could talk without censorship, without restriction. And on this internet, men began to ask questions. They began to observe things about reality. And they all began to gather together and they started to say the old archetypal complaints. This whole reality, this whole civilization feels like a scam. And so us men began to talk more. We began to form into a collective consciousness, a movement. The awareness began to rise because women cannot keep the truth suppressed for long. You see, the Buddha said that the truth is like the sun and lies are like the clouds. And you see, the clouds cannot keep the sun hidden forever. Eventually, the sun shines through. Oh yes, that means women are also to blame for bad weather. And so now that our generation has begun to cast off the clouds of ignorance, we have called ourselves the Red Pillars, the people who have woken up to the Matrix. But this movement is young, it is naive, it is childish and impulsive. Women have had thousands of years to prepare their regime of slavery, but we modern men, we've barely been awake for a decade. And so my great task is to resurrect the German knowledge that was destroyed all those years ago so we can add depth to our perspective, so we're standing on firm ground, so we understand clearly what is happening and we don't get squashed in the cradle like what women are planning to do. Now, I've already spoken about one of the main pillars required to fight back against the Matrix. This is Arthur Schopenhauer's perspective in the essay on women, where he reveals to us the true nature of reality and how women are intimately involved with our slavery in this realm, in this three-dimensional fallen world of suffering and pain. But another famous German incel, Friedrich Nietzsche, heavily disagreed with Schopenhauer. Now this might seem strange, surely all of us men quite clearly see what is going on and we're all in agreement about what to do, but this is not true at all. It is like we're in a bunker trying to fight a war, and we're shouting at each other because we all have our different opinions about how we should go about things and how we should understand what is happening around us. The fog of war is heavy and we cannot see clearly the situation. And you see, Schopenhauer is like the head general. He comes in with the brutal, pessimistic reality, and tells us that in order for us to deal with women, we have to just get rid of them. We just have to step away from them and all go live in a monastery and give up on them altogether, because the whole project of life is twisted and full of malice at its core. And Nietzsche was like a junior general. He was standing in the corner of the room, a very loyal soldier to Arthur Schopenhauer. He would read all his books, he would understand all his perspectives. But Nietzsche disagreed. Nietzsche felt that Schopenhauer was too black-pilled, too pessimistic, too bleak, and he had an inaccurate understanding of the situation as a consequence. And he spent his time formulating a comprehensive counter-argument to Schopenhauer that would allow us to actually achieve a true path forward and lead us towards a great future, instead of following Schopenhauer into a pessimistic, bleak and depressing mistake. Now, to start, let us talk about Schopenhauer's perspective. Now, I know I've already spoken about this on a previous video. I've already red-pilled the masses. But Schopenhauer is crucial to understanding Nietzsche, because Nietzsche reacted against Schopenhauer. So we need to get very clear about some of the things that Schopenhauer was talking about, because this is where Nietzsche was building his thoughts. Now, Schopenhauer's fundamental assertion is about the nature of reality, because this is what philosophers do all day. They don't contribute anything productive towards society. They spend all day thinking about women and the truth. In Schopenhauer's eyes, reality is evil. This is the deception, the trick that has been placed over our eyes. This is the matrix that has been cast in front of our eyes that we must take the red pill and wake up from. This is what it means to be Neo, is to realize that the world we live in, the actual reality that you're in there now, is based upon such a titanic amount of evil that you could not even comprehend. And so much of our reality is about hiding that evil from us. Think about your food, for example. You go and you eat dinner and you think you're such a moral good boy because you fought climate change in your laptop all day or something like this, making events where you can publicly speak about how terrible climate change is for the world. But the problem is that the plate that sits on your desk has a slab of chicken on it. And even though it was presented to you nice and packaged well, even though, you know, all the girls in the shop conducting their scams put it in this pretty little package, as women tend to do, they make everything pretty. They hide the ugly truth underneath things, and they put this little, you know, beautiful little piece of padding that sucked up all the succulent juices out of this chicken breast, and they sat it there, and it looks like this beautiful plasticky type of thing that sits in this plastic box that you wouldn't understand that was torn off the chest of a struggling bird that was held by its neck by a giant piece of metal as it choked it to death and extracted all its musculature off it. That's where it comes from. It comes from a place of murder and tyranny and death and violence. And even that simple act that you do 3 times a day of eating that breast of chicken, that is you participating in a mincemeat grinder of death and murder and evil. And you see, your problem as a man is that the wool is pulled over your eyes. This true savage nature of things is hidden from you by your own testicles. You see, you live in the matrix, and the demiurge that controls the matrix, which is life itself, needs to harvest out of you more little baby children so that it can feed them to Moloch. It can torture them and make them suffer in the realm of the jungle, or turn them into demons to torture other entities, so it can feed off that spiritual pain and suffering and keep the wheel of samsara going. And so what it needs to do is to get you aroused every time you see a woman. It wants you to get all hyped up, so it fills you full of tingles, it fills you full of hormones and desires every time you see a member of the opposite sex. And the opposite sex is dangled in front of you like a carrot, coaxing you to participate in the cycle of life that is fundamentally evil. So you go and you murder the lambs and the chickens so you can eat them in the gym and become big and strong, so you're all nice and sexy and attractive to that mate of yours that you're trying to get. Or you go around talking about climate change so you come across as moral and civilized, so some vegan girl is into you or something like this. But all in all, the fundamental goals you have are driven by these tingles you feel inside your body, which are just coaxing you to participate in the psychosis of the world. And Schopenhauer thinks you're an idiot for participating in this. He thinks you're completely soulless, incapable of pausing for a second and asking yourself, is these tingles, are they really worth it? Is that 1 second of an orgasm and then a rush of prolactin really worth torturing all those animals participating in this psychosis? Is it even that good in the end? This is Schopenhauer's red pill. He criticizes man for not waking up to his situation. He points out that women, that life, the demiurge, the demons of this world, suffering itself, it has no power when you simply step away from it, when you do not participate, when you use your reason to conquer your passions, when you turn around and say, I feel no tingles in my testicles for you anymore, and even if I did, I would not act upon them. I am free from the world. I have seen the truth I have seen reality. I am now a philosopher. I can comprehend the facts of existence. I no longer wish to participate. The truth has set me free, and all women are deceivers, are witches, are black magicians trying to suck me back into the realm of ignorance and get me to participate into something that is fundamentally evil, that is fundamentally bad. They are trying to coax me into something negative, and I will not fall for it anymore. I am conscious, I am aware, I am above it all. I have achieved enlightenment. And you see, when Nietzsche discovered this, it hit him like a truck. He was a young boyo on his path towards getting red-pilled, and he couldn't find any arguments against it. He would observe the world around him and see that all of these phenomena that Schopenhauer is describing seem to make sense. His prescriptions are well thought out. He has this savagery to the way that he presents things that seem very, very, very clear. And for a long time, it weighed heavy upon Nietzsche's soul. But Nietzsche had a strong soul. He was able to do something that most people cannot do. He was able to accept Schopenhauer's principles and try to digest them, try to wrestle with them, and try to fight them and test a reality without lying about them. Most people, when they come across this stuff, when they come across the truth,